So we're going to just start this little L16. It's an Aronca Champ, but it's the military observer liaison version, which is the L of L16. So it doesn't have a starter, so we're going to hand prop it. We're going to do the Hemingway starter, which is farewell to arms. But I'm going to be in here, and Don's going to spin the prop once I make her hot. And it's chained down with a little hook in the back that releases when you pull this lever down here. No, not that one, that ejects the door. Pull this lever here, and it ejects it. So, mags on, fuel on, throttle cracked, couple of primes. Got it running. So now I release the chain. And it didn't release. Hi, this is Mark at Skywagon University in the toy box. Check them all out. Some of my inventory. We're going to do a quick look, a comparison between the little L16 Champ and this J3 Cub. Not going to fly them, but they're very similar because they're both fabric tail draggers, tandem with sticks, with low horsepower engines with no electric start. So I just did the comparison right then. No, we'll go into a bit more detail. But we'll pull it out, we'll put them out there side by side and have a little bit of a look at them both. And since I've got these two little tail draggers in, I thought I'd do a quick comparison. We're not going to fly them because they don't have electrical systems, and we'd have to be hand propping them the whole time. So we're just going to look at like the to's and froms and the eaches and the y's of whatever they are. So this is a 47 J3 Cub, and that is a 43 Aronca Champ, but it's the L16 variant, which is the liaison bird dog. There's a bird dog in that hangar too, but an L19. That's an L16. You can see with the extra windows and things on it. But it's essentially a Champ. So let's have a look at both of them in a little bit more detail. Engine on the Champ. Easy to see. It sticks out the side of the cowling. This would be normally in a J3, a 65 horsepower Continental. But this has got a Lycoming in it. So it's a little Lycoming 65 horse. It's got 100 hours on it. Wooden propeller. No electrical system, and the dipstick is right here behind the propeller. You just unscrew it out of here and check the oil without even taking off the cowling. And similarly, the fuel gauge is this cork on a stick. So if that's floating like that, there's a lot of fuel in it. There's no fuel in the wings. That's full, that's empty. 65 horsepower and a Hemingway starter, farewell to arms, so you got to hand prop it every time. So engine on the L16. So under the hood of the Champ L16 is a Continental 85 horsepower Continental 4-cylinder direct drive, air cooled. You know, it's in a lot of these smaller, like little older planes. They can be 65, 85, 90 horse. And a variant of them, of course, is the 100 horse. It's in the Cessna 150. So very popular, very reliable. And also no electrical system, hand prop only. In a Warbird. And the whole Warbird is about worth as much as the propeller blade on a P-51 Mustang. So that's 30 grand, and this is 38 grand. That's a 100-hour engine. This has got about, I think, 600 or so on the engine. So, of course, both tail draggers, obviously. The gear on a Cub, this is the simple basic version of it, and as they get more modern and more Super Cub-like and more modified, they're very, very different. But this has rubber bungees underneath these bags that just wrap backwards and forwards so that when the gear spreads, they flex. So it's literally a triangular frame with a rubber bungee, and it'll bounce you right back into the air if you don't get it, if you don't get the landing right. But that is the standard gear on one of these. On the L16, this is slightly a heavier duty gear, I think, than a regular Champ would be, but it's got a rigid bar here, and the give is here, not here like on the Champ, and that's a strut, and it's a no bounce gear, so it actually will absorb a landing. And it's got slightly bigger tires on it too, so this is probably a more robust system on it, but still very, very conventional. So brakes and rudders in both of them. Obviously this is the rudder pedal, and the brake is a heel brake, which takes a little bit of getting used to if you're used to a toe brake. Heel brakes there, and then obviously the solo from the back in this plane, there are the brakes. There are the rudder pedals rather, and the brakes are underneath here. So, old school. I kind of like toe brakes. So in the L16 Champ, rudder pedals, heel brakes, brake, parking brake. This is the little hook that releases the hook on the tail wheel. If you were to hand prop it on your own, you'd hook that to a tie down, and then when it was running, get in, release that and taxi away. This ejects the door. And then here obviously is the seat, the rudder pedals and the brakes for the back seat. This you solo from the front. That J3 you solo from the back. Doors. Both can be flown with doors off or open. Well, not open on that because it would be in the way, but off. And then a Cub, very conventional, very like all Cubs, even the carbon Cubs of today. Lock there, and then release this, and it comes down. And the way that you actually do it is a weird sequence. You slot that into that rail, shut it, and then close it from the other side. But the most fun to be had is flying it like this, with it wide open, because it only does about 70 miles an hour. Door on the Champ, very much like a Citabria and all the variants of this plane. The door just kind of opens and angles down and sits against the strut like that, which makes it, to be honest, a little bit easier to get in and out, especially in the back. And that door comes off. When you rotate that handle inside, it pulls these pins out and door's gone. In the case of an emergency where you may have to pile out, so you can eject the door. Okay, gas. Both of them have header tanks in front of the dash, behind the engine. This one holds 12, and the Champ holds 13. And they both have the same fuel gauge, although in the Champ there's also another gauge on top of the dash, which is actually a Model A Ford fuel gauge with a float that passes a screen like that, and you see empty and full. Very simple. So 13 and 12. They can carry more gas. They can have another 7 up in the wing. So the tail wheel on a J3 is very small, and it's also above it, it's got this hook, which looks like a glider tug hook, but it isn't. It's for when you hand prop it. You put a chain on there to a tie down, hand prop it, and then get in, you pull a release, lets the chain out, and you can taxi away without having to get out. So, and that is not a full free castering tail wheel. That will only go to 90 degrees. So if you have to go backwards, you have to lift it, which actually isn't that difficult. Watch. If I had to lift this just with one hand, I could lift it and walk it around like that. And that actually was heavier than it looked. I just tried to make it look easier than it is. But you can walk them around like that. And on the Champ, it's actually a Maul tail wheel. It does free caster. It's very, very steerable. That's why these are so nice to fly as tail draggers. You can steer this thing on the ground like it's got a nose wheel. And it's got the release for the hook right here for when you're prop starting it. I don't think it would tow a glider, but that's obviously just for hand propping it. And then both of them, fabric, tubular steel frame, fabric everywhere, except they're cowlings. Cowlings are metal, everything else fabric. The Champ has metal spars in it, and it always did. Sorry, the Cub has metal spars in it. The Champ has a wooden spar in it. And the later ones, Citabrias, they can be upgraded to metal spars as well, but if it's looked after and it's in a dry climate, the wood will last for ages. So we're not going to fly them, but basic numbers are, they're both like max speed 90 miles an hour kind of planes. They both burn about 4 to 5 gallons an hour. So that means they've got a 2-hour range, maybe 2.5. They're both tandem 2-seat stick and rudder, solo from the back, solo from the front. They're both fabric, tubular steel structures. They're both no electrical system. They're both 70 years old. It's amazing that they're still going, and this one has a wooden propeller on it, even a classic wooden propeller. It's a typical J3. But just if you wanted to learn tail dragging and have a fun plane for about 30 grand, this sort of plane does the job admirably, and that's a warbird. So not a detailed video, but just going over some of the little nuances of the two because we had them here. So thanks for watching, and we do videos on a lot of different planes like this as we get them. And there's a subscribe link down here if you liked it, and there's a little notification button. So this is Mark from Skywagon University. Thanks for watching.